Coming up now in your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, we now know CM Punk's opponent for the Forbidden Door, and it's not Kenta. We also have Kenta's reaction to this. A member of the AEW roster has been arrested for domestic violence, and we've also got lots of other news from elsewhere around the wrestling world. Subscribe to Spoiler-Free Wrestling for all your wrestling news. On Wednesday night, AEW presented an episode of Dynamite from the Kia Forum in Los Angeles, and the first segment set up a possible match that will take place at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view on June 26 from the United Center in Chicago. After CM Punk and FTR defeated the team of Max Caster and the Gun Club, Punk called to the back, asking for his Forbidden Door opponent to be named, and who would walk out to the stage but the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now, although the match is not yet official, it appears as though we are going to see Punk versus Tanahashi, likely with the AEW title on the line in Punk's hometown of Chicago on June 26. Now, we've speculated a bit on this channel about a potential match between CM Punk and Kenta at the Forbidden Door, but it now looks as though that is not going to happen. Kenta has been calling out Punk for quite some time now over Punk using his GTS as a finisher. It seemed as though things might be finally leading to the two facing each other, but it doesn't look like the Forbidden Door is opening for Kenta. Kenta took to Twitter following the segment on Dynamite and had the following to say. He wrote, "Knock knock. Okay, bye. #Forbidden Door." So I guess Kenta having a little fun at the idea that the Forbidden Door doesn't open for him. He also responded to a tweet that mentioned some comments that CM Punk had made during the post-event media scrum for Double or Nothing. When asked about possible opponents for the Forbidden Door, Punk listed Okada, Tanahashi, and Ospreay, but there was no mention of Kenta. Kenta just wrote on Twitter, "It looks like the Forbidden Door won't open for me, but I'm totally fine as long as he pays royalty. #go to sleep." Also, regarding people stealing moves from Kenta, Jon Moxley said recently that the Kenta that inspired generations. If you're around my age, let's face it, everybody stole their from Kenta. And Kenta wrote on Twitter, "Just stop it," with a little blushy face emoji in response to a tweet regarding Moxley's comments. So Kenta has been out of action since the third night of Wrestle Kingdom back in January. It was reported back then that he was dealing with an accumulation of various injuries, and there is still no timetable for his return. Let me know in the comment section if you think we will ever see Kenta versus CM Punk, or if the heat between the two is just a little too real for that match to take place. The second segment on AEW Dynamite last night is one many fans are talking about. It featured MJF cutting a promo that some are referring to as a quote-unquote worked shoot, with the lines between reality and storyline being heavily blurred. MJF blasted AEW's fans, calling them marks, and also calling Tony Khan a mark. He blasted the company for paying ex-WWE guys more money than him, and he then called for Khan to fire him before his mic was cut off and the screen cut away. Many people loved the promo, but many others complained that it was a little too similar to late-stage WCW, where Vince Russo blurred the lines between reality and storyline so much that it was to the detriment of the show overall. Now, what was not shown on television, during the commercial break, CM Punk came out to confront MJF, but MJF ended up leaving through the crowd, and none of that would be shown on replay later either. People either loved this promo or absolutely hated it. Let's take a look at some of the reactions to it. Ariel Helwani had the following to say. He said, "Work, shoot, who cares? MJF is the most interesting thing in wrestling right now, and it isn't even close. Wrestling is at its best when it plays off real-life issues, when it blurs the lines and makes you wonder. No one does it better than MJF right now. What a segment." JD from New York also had the following to say. He quoted MJF saying, "Hey boss, would you treat me better if I was an ex-WWE guy?" JD from New York then wrote, "The greatest MJF promo that will ever be. What you're watching is one of the most important storylines of our generation. Hashtag AEW Dynamite. Tony Khan and MJF are effing geniuses. But many felt that this was not the case and that the storyline and the worked shoot angle is something that will not benefit the company in the long run. Now, Trevor Dame is someone who's an interesting follow on Twitter. He talked a little bit about Dave Meltzer's comments on Wrestling Observer Radio regarding the MJF promo. Trevor Dame wrote, Meltzer had an interesting take on the MJF promo, praising his delivery, but pointing out that by getting the crowd to cheer him doing Cornette's material, Tony as a mark promoter, the wrestlers being flippy guys who can't work, he's basically turning AEW heel, late 90s WCW style. He continued, he also pointed out that Wardlow's pay-per-view momentum was basically erased. MJF was way hotter, barely selling the match, while Wardlow was back in a random squash with no big immediate follow-up. So interesting takes on the MJF promo from last night's Dynamite. I want to know your thoughts on MJF's pipe bomb. Tell me what you thought of it in the comments section. There is a small update on the ongoing situation involving Kota Ibushi and New Japan Pro Wrestling. To get completely up to date on what's been going on with the two sides, please refer to previous videos that we have released on the subject. So Ibushi did return to Twitter on both May 30th and June 1st. He wrote the following on May 30th, and unfortunately Google Translate is not really helpful on this one. He said he wants to start a video. I want to tell the facts in my own words. Mr. Shimoshima of TV Asahi, NJPW World, I'm done saying the percentage of other people's goods guarantee. There are good and bad things to get drunk. So I'm really not too sure what to take from that tweet. But then on June 1st, he announced that his mother has returned home after an unfortunate situation that we addressed in previous videos. Ibushi wrote, my mother is back today. How can long-term care be used so much? I respect the caregiver, and I will never forget the last words. It says here I said until I got home, but it's probably he'll never forget the last words she said until they got home. Is Bushi Road all right? So clearly there are still serious issues between Kota Ibushi and New Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll keep you updated. Just make sure you're subscribed to Spoiler Free Wrestling. Miro also returned to AEW on Dynamite this Wednesday. He had been out of action since November's Full Gear pay-per-view. He actually signed a new contract with the company shortly after the event, and he's been off filming TV series since then, and has just kind of been waiting for an opportunity to return. Well, he answered Johnny Elite's open challenge from the Kia Forum, but first cut a promo about how he is angry with his God for taking away his TNT title. And now the Redeemer wants to basically usurp his God. So the Miro versus God feud is continuing in AEW. He then defeated Johnny Elite fairly soundly, securing the victory via submission with his game over submission hold. So Miro back in AEW. And just one more note from AEW Dynamite this week. We now know the date of the next Blood and Guts War Games style match. It will take place the Wednesday after the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, so that will be the AEW Dynamite on June 29th, and that's going to be from Detroit, Michigan. On Dynamite, Eddie Kingston and William Regal challenged the Jericho Appreciation Society to the match. Jericho would later accept, but only after Ortiz cut off a lock of his hair. It was also announced that Jericho and Ortiz will have a hair versus hair match that will take place on the June 15th edition of Dynamite from St. Louis. NWA World Heavyweight Champion Matt Cardona suffered a torn biceps at GCW Downward Spiral on Saturday. He was wrestling a match against Blake Christian, and unfortunately the injury will require surgery, so he is going to have to miss a bunch of dates over the coming months. Now, he had been scheduled to defend his championship on the NWA Always Ready pay-per-view on Saturday, June 11th against Nick Aldis. However, it does not appear as though he will be able to wrestle in that match, but he did announce on Busted Open Radio on Wednesday that he will be at the pay-per-view in some form, so here is what he had to say on the show. Doctor is suggesting surgery, which I will be getting on Tuesday, but there is no way I am not coming to a pay-per-view named after me. I will be there. I don't know what exactly is going to happen. I don't know what exactly is going to go down. I'm going to be there. I'll have the 10 pounds of gold with me, and that's really Billy's decision what he wants to do. Trust me, part of me wanted to just tape it up and work through it, but I want to be doing this for a long, long time, so it's probably better that I get it taken care of right now. He continued to say, I will be there. I don't care if I have to drive, walk, crawl, fly, I will be there. What I'll be doing, I'm not sure, but the champ will be in the building. So, while he likely will not be wrestling or defending that championship, Matt Cardona will be at NWA Always Ready on June 11th. Wyndham Rotunda, the former Bray Wyatt, returned to Twitter on May 31st, and as he always does, he posted some ominous messages regarding his potential return to professional wrestling. He first posted a new profile picture, which is this weird insect thing with a red scratched out face. He then wrote, "Everything good that's ever happened to me. First came a period of horrible suffering. I never ask why, I just wait for the rough part to end. I was chosen for whatever reason, and I've got S to do. It doesn't hurt anymore, it burns. I'm ready now." He continued, "I'm tired of watching, tired of hearing irrelevant clowns speculate how I'll be perceived. Tired of hearing about my greed, my desire questioned. Wherever and whenever I decide to return, I'll remind everyone why they know my name. Again and again. Believe in me." And he closed off with, "Patience, it's almost time." So is Wyndham Rotunda, formerly known as Bray Wyatt, returning to wrestling soon? Time will tell. AEW's Jake Atlas has been out of action with a torn ACL since January 5th, but he was arrested on May 23rd for domestic violence against his partner. So Atlas was said to be drinking with friends at a bar, called his partner to come pick him up. Atlas's partner then did so, and Atlas then tried to get his partner to go to a female's friend's house to engage in sexual activities, and the partner agreed. They then went to the friend's residence. The police report continues to say that Atlas and his partner got into an altercation after Atlas believed that his partner, quote, showed more attention to the female half than to Atlas in said sexual encounters. Atlas is then said to have become physically aggressive and charged at his partner, and he has been arrested on domestic violence charges. He has signed an agreement that he will have no contact with the alleged victim and must stay at least 500 feet away unless otherwise allowed by the 9th Judicial Court in Orange County, Florida. He will be arraigned on the domestic violence charge on June 28th, and he has currently deactivated his Twitter as well. So Jake Atlas charged with domestic violence. A new promotion run by the former AOP in WWE, the Wrestling Entertainment Series, has postponed its debut event originally scheduled for this Saturday, June 4th. The event was to feature the former Braun Strowman going up against Alistair Overeem. Other former WWE names such as Lana and Nia Jax were also scheduled for the show. So they announced that the event has now been rescheduled to July 9th. But some of the advertised names will not be appearing on the new date. Deonna Purrazzo took to Twitter and wrote, "This entire process has been frustrating to say the least. I will not be making it for the quote-unquote postponed July date. I hope to return to the UK under better circumstances soon." So these are fairly ambitious plans from the Wrestling Entertainment Series. We will see how their event goes on July 9th, if it does in fact go forward. Some changes have been made for the Best of the Super Juniors final set for June 3rd. There are 3 names that have had to have been scratched for the event. Will Ospreay is still recovering from a kidney infection. We had reported on that in a previous video. He is said to be doing much better, but he's still not going to make it for this show. Carl Anderson is off the show. He's tested positive for COVID-19, and Tanga Loa has suffered a right knee injury. So let's take a look at the full card for the show on June 3rd. We will see Robbie Eagles, Yo, Teton, and Clark Connors team up to take on El Lindemann, Ace Austin, Wheeler Yuta, and Alex Zane. We'll see Team 6 or 9 Taguchi and Master Wato. This is a non-title match against TJP and Francesco Akira. Tomoaki Hanma is going to take on Juice Robinson. That's also a non-title match. Zack Sabre Jr. and Yoshinobu Kanemaru will take on Evil and Sho. Jeff Cobb, The Great Okan, and Aaron Hanari will take on Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and El Phantasmo. Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, and Bushi will take on Taichi, Takamichinoku, and Doki. Kazuchika Okada, Toru Yano, Tama Tonga, and Jado will take on Jay White, Doc Gallows, Taiji Ishimori, and Gato. And of course, in the main event, the Best of the Super Juniors finals, we'll see Hiramu Takahashi take on El Desperado. On Sunday, June 19th, New Japan Pro Wrestling of America will present a set of strong tapings from the Vermont Hollywood in Los Angeles. New Japan Pro Wrestling Ignition. We've got 6 matches announced for the show so far. They are Barrett Brown and Mysterioso versus Kevin Knight and the DKC. Fred Yehai will face off with Bateman. JR Kratos versus Jordan Cruz. Jonah versus Taylor Rust. Negro Casas, Adrian Quest, and Lucas Riley will face Mascara Dorada, Ren Narita, and David Finlay. And in a previously announced match, we will see Hiroshi Tanahashi and Yuya Uemura take on the Bullet Club team of Jay White and Hikuleo. Our next video will be released on Saturday, and between now and then, AEW will present a live episode of Rampage on Friday night from the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California. 3 matches are scheduled for the show. Athena, the former Ember Moon, will make her in-ring debut for AEW. She's going to take on Kiera Hogan from Jade Cargill's Baddies section. We will also see the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, take on their longtime rivals, the Lucha Bros, Penta Oscura and Rey Fenix. And for the TNT Championship, Scorpio Sky defends against Dante Martin. And that's going to do it for this video, everyone. Subscribe to Spoiler Free Wrestling for all your wrestling news.